once you find out the positive strengths and talents and ability, then you want to accent that. You want to enhance that. You want to cater to that or help the child to grow in that direction. You'll find that you'll have a much healthier child, and the child will have a good self-concept and self-esteem as they grow to adulthood. Hello, my name is Bill Jamison, and this is 24/7 Dad Class. Today, we're going to talk about children's growth. This is session 8, children's growth. That's the subject of this session. As a warm-up statement, I would like to ask you one goal my parents had for me that I was able to achieve is what? Would you answer that? In my book, I wrote, my parents wanted me to be a good Christian, and I think I have achieved that. Okay. The second statement I want you to respond to is, when I met this goal, I felt. When you met the goal that your parents set for you, how did that make you feel? I wrote, I had complied with my parents, and I believe that I also please God. Okay? The third statement I want you to respond to is, one goal my parents had for me that I didn't achieve was what? What was that goal that you didn't achieve, yet your parents really wanted you to? I wrote, to be a good farmer and work the land we owned. I didn't want to do that, and I didn't do that. Okay? Which leads me to my fourth statement. When I did meet this goal, I felt what? How did you feel when you did meet that goal that your parents wanted you to reach? I wrote in my workbook, I had made the choice that was right for me. I felt that farming was not right for me and that I had made the right choice. Okay. Children who have high self-worth think and feel they are good people and that they are worthy of love from others and themselves. That's our overall arching statement. So I want to look at goals and self-worth. Goals and self-worth in your workbook is on page 47. Let's look at that. The first verbiage that we see, the verbiage that we see reads like this. Self-worth is the overall value a person has for themselves. Self-worth combines a person's self-concept, thoughts about themselves, and self-esteem, feelings about themselves. So the self-concept is a combination of thoughts about oneself, and the self-esteem is feelings about themselves. How do they see themselves? And do they see themselves the way you see them? Okay? Or do you see them the way they want you to see them? All that is in our self-worth and our self-esteem. It's okay and good for dads to have goals for their children and to tell their children about the goals. What harms children is when the goals aren't realistic and dads react poorly when the children do not reach the goals. That's one of the problems that I think many parents run into. So on page 48, the second question I have for you, when a child doesn't meet the goals their dad has for them, what likely happens to their self-worth? That's my question to you. I wrote in my workbook, it decreases and lowers their concept of themselves. Okay, so you can see that self-concept has a lot to do with the father's acceptance of the child, or the child's perception of whether or not the dad accepts them or is pleased with what they're doing. And the third question is, when a child meets the goal their dad has set for them, what likely happens to the self-esteem? I wrote in my text, it increases their self-concept and their self-worth. I believe that when a child reaches a goal that has been set by the parent, by the father in this case, it really enhances their self-concept and their self-worth. Okay, that's what I believe. Okay, and then the fourth question here, or rather the fourth item deals with verbiage about this same thing. So let me just read through it and share my thoughts with you about it. Children's self-worth not only changes based on whether they meet their dad's goals, but they learn to anticipate their dad's goals and how he will react when they meet or do not meet those goals based on the pattern their dad has set already. Okay? Sadly, many dads set the bar too high, and their children are never able to reach their dad's goals. It's okay and good for dads to have goals for their children and to tell their children about those goals. And then I repeat what I started with. What harms children is when the goals aren't realistic, and dads react poorly when their children do not reach those goals. All right. Now let's look at the nature and nurture, having to do with children, nature or nurture. Which is most important? Is it nature or is it nurture? Number one, this is on page 49. Number one, nature is the trait that a person is born with and don't change, such as race, sex, hair, and the eye color. These are traits that parents can't affect. Number two, nurture is the way parents raise and treat their children. Nurture affects some traits such as self-worth, how a child treats others, and what a child does for a job as an adult. Okay. Number three, under the same heading, nature or nurture. The way parents raise children can strengthen the natural weaknesses or weaken the natural strengths. Parents can bring out or grow or suppress and not develop children's natural talents. At the same time, parents can get their children training to run faster, but their children can only run as fast as their natural gift will allow. Parents can make sure that children eat the most healthiest food to grow taller, but their children will only grow as tall as their bodies will allow. Okay? And these are things that I think as 24/7 dads we have to keep in mind, is that there are built-in things with your child that really will limit what they can do. But there are so many things that they can do with what they have, the equipment they have, how tall they are, or their agility, or their ability in sports, or academic, or what have you. They just need to find their area of expertise, what they will excel in. And I believe that the job of the 24/7 dad is to help them do that. But sometimes we may really hurt them or cause them to go into rebellion when we don't recognize a limitation or that they are not geared that way. And just because I'm a runner doesn't mean that my child is going to be a runner. Just because I am a speaker doesn't mean that my child will speak like I do. And so those are things that we really need to recognize, and we need to learn to nurture what's there. If the child is athletic, nurture that. If the child is academic, nurture that. And you will find that you will get the best results by doing that, and the child will be happier with life. There are so many people who have pursued careers and done things just to satisfy their parents, but their hearts were not in it. They didn't have a passion for it, and consequently, they were miserable, even though they may have done it. And in many cases, they failed at it. And so they then became very frustrated with their parents and sometimes with life. And sometimes it really interfered with their interpersonal relationships in close relationships, such as a marriage or someone that you're dating. And so we want to be aware of that, and we want to really nurture what is there and make sure that we understand the strengths and weaknesses of our children. The fourth item is how to use the age and stage chart. How to use the age and stage chart. They can help. The fact is, there's too much to know about children's growth without looking to the chart for help. Even pediatricians keep these kinds of charts to refer to in their work. And so there's a lot of things about the growth of children that we really need some help with. And it's okay to consult other people and professionals. And you know, one of the things that I think may be missing in our lives right now is that our elders are not near because of the nuclear family and because of our mobility. We no longer live in the same neighborhood necessarily with our parents or our grandparents. And so we miss that input because when there is a village, if you will, the village tends to supply the insights that we need, the things that our parents have really already experienced. They've already made mistakes, so they're able to tell you what mistakes not to make or what pitfalls not to fall into and how to enhance your relationship with your child and helping them to grow in a healthy way. And so because of our mobility and our elders not being near, we may have to consult friends, we may have to consult professionals, or even go online and look up how we can help our children to grow, okay? Don't use the chart like a report card. Don't compare your children to other children or your children to each other. That's so important. The charts are only a roadmap to guide you on what most children should be able to do at a certain age, okay? All children grow at different rates. The main thing is that your child are able to do these things at some point, even if it's a later age, okay? If you're ever worried about how your child is growing, talk with your child's doctor. Now there is a pressure on parents to try to get their children to do things that the children they're not ready to do, or they're not prepared to do, or in many cases they can't do it. But the parents are very competitive with their neighbors, and this is, the Jones syndrome, keeping up with the Jones, or keeping up with the Jones kids down the street. Well, he is a football star, or he's a tennis star, so my son should do the same. And many times we put pressure on our children that really shouldn't be there. And so here again, we need to make sure that we understand the nature of our child, what that child's capabilities are, or limitations, as well as a child's ability, talents, and strength. And once you find out the positive strengths and talents and ability, then you want to accent that. You want to enhance that. You want to cater to that or help the child to grow in that direction. And you'll find that you'll have a much healthier child, and the child will have a good self-concept and self-esteem. as they grow to adulthood. The fifth point I want to share with you about about how to use the age and stage chart. To have you look at number 5 on page 50, and it says 3 things I can do right now to help my child to grow healthy and strong are. What are those 3 things? 3 things that you could do to help your child to grow healthy and strong. I wrote these, and you might consider what you would say based on your child's nature as you know it, okay? I said, number 1, I praise the good things that they do. One of the things that I try to do is praise the good things that my children do. Second thing I did and still do with my children, to touch them and show my acceptance of them. It's important that your children know that you accept them, and touch sometimes is a real indicator of acceptance. So give your child a hug, a pat on the back, or rub their shoulders or something, and let them know that you accept them the way they are. And the third thing I wrote in my workbook is that I give them the freedom to grow based on their natural traits and abilities. And I would advise you to do the same. Give them the freedom to grow based on their traits and abilities. Okay? Very good. Now, we've come really to the end of this session. This was one of our shortest sessions. And I want to remind you of the checklist that you have in your book. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but it will help you to lay out some exercises or some items that you want to explore with your child to ensure that your child has a good self-concept and self-worth, as well as ways in that you can help them to grow. So, in closing, I want to know these 3 things from you. What is one new thing you learned from this session? One new thing you learned from this session, okay? I wrote that parents play an important role in their children's self-concept and self-worth by recognizing the nature of their children and nurturing them according to their nature. I think that's pretty good. Can I just say that again? I wrote, parents play an important role in their children's self-concept and self-worth by recognizing the nature of their children and nurturing them according to their nature. Oh, I think that's one you want to remember. You want to write that down, okay? And then the second question I have for you is that on a scale of 0 to 5, okay, how likely are you to put into play what you have learned here during this session, okay? And I wrote a 5. I really believe that this is important, and so I put that into play. Now, my children are grown, but I can still do some of this even as a father of a grown person, because you know what? They still want my approval. My children call me all the time. They want to know what I think, and they care about what I think about them. And so I think that's always going to be there. You always going to be influential. You will always be an influential person in their lives. And so it's important that we get it right and that we have a good handle on their nature and how to nurture that nature. And number 3, what I have learned will help me to be a better dad because. I want you to answer that question. Well, we have come to the end of this session, and I really do appreciate you staying with me. We're completing the 8th session, and we're getting ready to go into the 9th session. Go to the 9th session. And you know what? When you get there, I'll be there. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.